Hello everybody, my name is David Schwartz, and last time we started MISHNAYOT Baruch Seder ZE'RAAIM. This is part of the Baruch A'Havat Israel KOLLEL in San Diego. Thank them so much for giving us the opportunity to learn today and to continue on with our MISHNAYOT that we started last time. This shiur is in honor of my great grandfather, whom I was named after, Getzel, Halevi, righteous man who raised children to follow in the ways of Torah and Hashem. So last time we spoke, we did the first Mishnah in Brachos. That was concerning when do we say the Shema at night. Now we're going to speak about the opposite. When do we say Shema b'shachris in the morning? So let's begin. So the first opinion, so the first opinion says that when you wake up in the morning, it's a little bit dark at night. However, the sun starts to creep up a little bit, and you're able to tell the difference between colors. Which two colors? So techeles is something that is found on the tzitzis. Nowadays, we don't know for sure exactly where this color, where this dye. We dye one of our tzitzis, one of the strands on our tzitzis, the fringes. We dye it light blue. It comes from an animal called the chilazon. However, we don't know exactly nowadays where this is. In Eretz Yisrael, it's more common. You'll see somebody wearing tzitzis with a strike of a blue, one of the tzitzit to be fully light blue. So that color of light blue and white, the lava, those two colors, when the sun rises up in the sky and we start to see more clearly what's night, what's day, and we see, we could tell the difference between two things. So when we're able to tell the difference between light blue and white, that's the time that we should say say Shema. That's the first opinion. First opinion says when we're able to see the difference between these two colors, techeles, the lava. This techeles, again, techeles is a reference to the tzitzis, the blue strand that's found in the animal, the chilazon. Within the chilazon, you can extract the color of light blue. Rabbi Elazar Omer being techeles lecharsi. So Rabbi Elazar comes and says there's it's not blue. It's between the blue and between a leek, which is a green color. So we have a difference of opinions of which two colors we should which two colors are to be seen the difference between. Now, what's the difference between light blue and white and green, like a light green and a light blue? The difference is the sun being more up and more apparent, meaning the day it's the second opinion is a further opinion, meaning it's much easier to tell the difference between white and light blue, or blue. Let's not call it light blue. Let's call it blue. It's much easier to tell the difference between white and blue, as opposed to green and blue, because they're very close in their similarities. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar says, it's very interesting, because the first opinion basically says that it's earlier on in the day. It's between when you could see it, and the sun is less hot, it's less up in the air. But Rabbi Elazar says no, the sun has to be more. It has to be more apparent. It has to be hard. It's too easy to say between white and blue. We need to make it harder. So Rabbi Elazar, it needs to be between green and blue, which means that he's saying that it has to be later on in the day, not much later on, but a little bit later on. So again, let's just recap. We're speaking about bays. We're speaking about when should we say Shema in the morning. When we get up, when should we say it? First opinion says between blue and white. So Rabbi Elazar says between green and blue. V'gaimra ad hanetzachama, and we finish, and when we can finish saying the Shema, because there's a time period when the morning that we can start saying Shema. And remember last time we spoke about when you can at night, when to finish, and we said really you have the whole entire night until the rising of the sun, until the sunrise. Here we say you have until Netzachama, which is the first opinion, says that you have until sunrise. So you have from the time that you're able to see the difference between blue and green until Netzachama, which is sunrise. So this time between blue and green that you're seeing the difference is not, the sun hasn't risen yet. Don't think I'm sorry I didn't make it clear, but I make it more clear now that the sun hasn't risen yet. It hasn't gotten to the point where it's fully day and everyone's up. It's just that's the earliest time that you could say is when you could see the difference between those two colors, and you have until the sun fully rises. Rabbi Yeshua Aimer ad shalosh sha'os. So Rabbi Yeshua says you have until the end of the first 3 hours of the day. So the days in Judaism, the days are divided differently. As opposed, it doesn't go by. It has a. Well, I'll read this over here. Whenever an hour of the day is mentioned in the Mishnah, it refers not to a fixed period of 60 minutes. So we're not talking about a 60-minute period, but to 1/12 of the time between the beginning and the end of the daytime, for 1/12 of the nighttime. Such hours which are called Shoismaniyos. So it really depends. It also depends on the time of the year. Sometimes we know that sometimes during the year the sun rises later or earlier. So, but for simple understanding, we have until until the end of the first 3 hours of the day. I'm not exactly sure. I'll get it. I really didn't get. I have to understand that more. But okay. So Shabin, and then here he gives a reason as to why, as to what he's saying. Shekain derech b'nei malachim la'amoid b'shalosh shois. So it's the way of the princes, the king's son, that they get up at the end of the first 3 hours. So it says over here in the commentary that people get up. Most people get up earlier than these princes. But really, we have until these princes get up, which means that everyone's going to be up, because apparently princes, they get up later in the day. Not much later, but a little bit later. So we just said you said one opinion. You have until sunrise to finish saying the Shema. It starts when you could see the difference between blue and green, or white and green, according to the different opinions. And then you have until sunrise. Rabbi Yeshua says you have until the end of the first 3 hours, because he says because the reason that he's giving you this time is because the princes, the king's sons, they rise at this time. This is the time that they rise in the morning. And anyone who says after these 3 hours, according to this opinion over here, it's fine. But it's a different mitzvah. If you say it after the time, if you come past the time, and you haven't said Shema, you can still say Shema, but the reward is like a person who reads from the Torah. It's like Adam Hakari B'Torah, meaning it's not the same type of reward as you would get when you say the Shema at the perfect time. The Shulchan Aruch says that really. The latest time is for the Shemona Esrei, when you have when there's also a time that you could say Shemona Esrei in the morning, but he gives you, the Shulchan Aruch gives you like all the way till Shemona Esrei, but there is a time limit. So now we understand from Mishnah Aleph and Mishnah Beis, we understand the time limits, and when you can say Shema, when it's the proper times to say it, and we know how much time we have to say it. That was Mishnah Beis. Now we're going to go on Mishnah Gimel, which is a very, very integral, it's very good, one of the, since Brachos is the first Mishnah in the whole Shas, the whole Talmud Bavli, then this I guess would be the first machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. I'm not exactly sure if that's true or not, but I don't know exact orders. It could be maybe the orders were different, but back then. But from what we have here, now we're introduced to Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, who disagree with each other. Let's find out what they have to say. Beis Shammai Omer be'erev kol adam yatu v'yikru u'b'boker ya'amoidu shnemu u'v'shavtecha u'v'kumecha. So in Shema, if we pay attention to the verses and we translate it, it says u'v'shavtecha u'v'kumecha. That's when you lay down and when you get up. So says Beis Shammai, when you get up, when you want to say Shema, when somebody goes to recite Shema, Beis Shammai holds that he should be laying on his side, like laying on the ground, like literally laying on the floor. And in the morning, that's at night. Sorry, at night when he So at night, of all people should lay down on their side, not on their back, not on their stomach. They should lay on their side, so that way they can fulfill this mitzvah. They can fulfill this the literal translation of the pasuk in the Torah, which says when you lay down and when you get up. Well, I mean, speaking about Shema, and in Shema it says, in the passage, in the actual pasuk, it says when you lie down and when you rise. So at night, when you're about to go to sleep and you're lying down, then you should say Shema. Or I mean, if we held, we'll see if we'll hold like him, but if there's a minyan or something, according to Beis Shammai, it seems like everybody should be laying on the side of their, on their side when they're in shul. And also when you get up in the morning, when you say Shema in the morning, that we spoke about before, the shachar between the, you have to know exactly when to say it. When we said the chelas, the lavan, and over here, when you get up, when you get up in the morning, and you say Shema, you have to be standing up, literally standing up. That's Beis Shammai. Uveis Hillel Oimrim Kol Adam Karek Hidarkai Shenemar Uveleftecha Baderech. So says Beis Hillel. Hillel disagrees. He says, Kol Adam Karek Kedarkai. Every person should say it Kedarkai, which is, according, I mean, the way that he does it. It doesn't really matter. Basically, he's basically saying that it's not really. It's just every person may recite the Shema in his way, which I mean is basically. I don't know if it's much of a disagreement, but he's saying you don't necessarily need to be laying down or standing up. Either way, it says in the pasuk "Uvelechta baderech" when you're on your way. So again, Beis Shammai says, he quotes the part of the pasuk that says "Uveshavtecha uvkamecha" when you lay down and when you get up. So therefore, from that pasuk, from those words, he learns that a person needs to be literally laying down and getting up when he says the Shema. At night he should be laying down, and in the morning he should be standing. But comes Beis Hillel and says, what about the rest of the pasuk? There's another part of the pasuk that says, when you're walking on your way, you should also be saying the Shema. Well, so he takes a literal translation and he says, no, you could be standing, you could be sitting, but choose one. I mean, according to Beis Hillel, you should be either sitting or standing. You shouldn't be, sitting and standing, whatever. But Beis Hillel says it's fine. So now we have a question concerning Beis Hillel. If it's true that it says uvelechta baderech when you're on your way, then what about what Beis Shammai said? Beis Shammai told us uveshavtecha uvkamecha when you lay down and when you get up. So what do you do with that part? We're asking Beis Hillel, what do you do with the part that Beis Shammai brought up? Adam Adam oimdin. So he uses that as a time period, meaning when people wake up in the morning, that's when they should be saying the Shema, and when people lay down at night, that's when they at that time period, and when people get up at that time period. So he uses that pasuk to teach us time. He's using the idea of time as opposed to a literal understanding that no, you should be laying down and standing up. Beis Hillel says this uveshavtecha of kumecha that Beis Shammai brought, all that it brings is a time period for when people lie down and when people get up, which is in the morning at night. That's how he understands that. So now we're continuing on with a story that's connected to this machlokes. Amar Rabbi Tarfon, and he yisi ba b'derech v'hi teisi likrois kedevrei Beis Shammai sikanti ba'atzmi mipnei halistim. So Reb Tarfon was on the road. He was traveling on the road, and he used Baba Derech, vayitezi likrois, and he wanted to say the Shema kedevrei Beis Shammai. He wanted to say it like according to Beis Shammai. He wanted to fulfill the obligation according to Beis Shammai's understanding, because according to Beis Shammai's understanding, everybody agrees. Because again, Beis Hillel doesn't disagree in the sense of you can't lie down. Rather, he just says that it's really either way. It doesn't really matter as long as you're saying the Shema sitting or standing. So he wanted to be Mekai. He wanted to fulfill the obligation the best way possible, and he stopped and he went and he wanted to go like Beis Shammai, but there was a problem though. There was a danger there, because and he laid down to say the Shema on his literal. He literally laid down, and because of that, robbers came, and they heard him. They attacked him when he was lying down. He got Reb Tarfon. He got attacked because he was going like Beis Shammai. So what does that tell? Amr loy kedai yisi lachuv ba'atzmecha v'sha'arav ta al divrei Beis Hillel. So what does that tell us? That tells us that. So the sages said to him, the Chachamim said to him, after they heard the story that he got attacked because he went like Beis Shammai, they said that really that it's fitting that you should have gotten attacked or harmed. You should have. They're basically saying that this makes sense. This makes sense what happened to you because you transgressed the opinions of Beis Hillel. You didn't go like Beis Hillel. So from this, it seems like the halacha follows Beis Hillel, which means that you shouldn't literally be laying down on the floor. If that was true, it'd be funny because if you have a minyan at night, you go to the minyan and everybody's laying down on the floor for a minyan, that would be going like Beis Shammai. But according to this story, so we learned the two opinions, and then we say according to this story, we have an understanding that we should be going like Beis Hillel, who brings uveleftecha baderech. When you're going on your way, when you're going, uveleftecha baderech, when you're on your path, that's how you should be saying Shema. We don't need to be laying down. That's the Mishnah for these two Mishnayos that we did today. Let's see my time. We have a lot. But thanks everybody for listening. It was a pleasure learning with you guys, and we hope to anyways, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to the next Mishnah.
Amen.